The WNBA just made its stance crystal clear, and this time, there's no backing down.
Tiffany Hayes, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You are pushing for physical harm and violence on Caitlin Clark because she busted your you-know-what in a basketball game that you was doing a lot of trash talking into. This is nasty work. I got some cousins. We don't need to speak about that. Will ride at dawn upon request. Just let me know. So this person is saying, I got some cousins that'll do physical harm and commit to violence on Caitlin Clark that has nothing to do with on the court. You're talking about harming someone violently off the floor in their regular day-to-day lives. This is nasty, regardless if this person is serious or not. As a professional, you should not be entertaining this. You should not be laughing and kikiing and ha-haing and pushing for this, Tiffany Hayes. This is nasty work. Tiffany Hayes puts "that's real" with the crying face.
The basketball world erupted. Analysts, former players, media personalities, and fans from across the country all reacted at once. And despite their different opinions on almost everything else, they were united on one demand: accountability.
The WNBA needs to come out and suspend her ass right away. Okay, a fine isn't enough. She needs to be fined and suspended immediately.
Get into the suspension itself. To really understand why this story exploded across the entire sports world, you have to look beyond just the names involved. This is no longer only about Tiffany Hayes and Caitlin Clark. It has become a larger conversation about what happens when a league grows faster than the systems designed to manage that growth. And right now, the WNBA is growing at a speed women's sports has never experienced before. The arrival of Caitlin Clark completely changed the landscape. Ratings skyrocketed. Arenas started selling out. Merchandise numbers exploded. Social media engagement reached levels the league had never seen before. Teams that once struggled to fill seats suddenly became national attractions. The Indiana Fever turned into one of the hottest tickets in basketball, and the league itself benefited from a massive wave of new attention. But rapid growth creates pressure. And pressure without strong structure eventually exposes cracks. For years, the WNBA operated in a much smaller spotlight. Most players knew each other personally. Rivalries stayed competitive, but usually professional. The league environment was tight enough that players largely kept each other accountable. Then the social media era changed everything. Locker room frustrations no longer stayed private. Heated moments became viral clips. Post-game emotions turned into online debates within minutes. Clark didn't create the tension. She amplified it. The physicality debates, jealousy narratives, resentment over media attention, and frustration over platform inequality were already there beneath the surface. Once Clark entered the league and shattered viewership records, every existing issue suddenly became louder and far more public. That's why the Tiffany Hayes situation became such a massive flashpoint. Now let's break down how things escalated. The matchup between the Indiana Fever and the Golden State Valkyries was already intense from the opening tip. Clark was putting on a show: logo threes, no-look assists, deep-range confidence, the full superstar package. Performances like that energize fans, but they also frustrate defenders trying to stop her. On the other side was Tiffany Hayes, battling through the pressure while Clark controlled the pace of the game. Clark's swagger and confidence have become part of her identity, but critics often interpret that same confidence as arrogance. That tension has followed her since college, and it only becomes more intense under the WNBA spotlight. The game itself was physical, which is nothing unusual for professional basketball. The WNBA has always been known for toughness and intensity. These are elite athletes competing at the highest level, and physical play is part of the culture. But there's always a line between hard competition and losing emotional control. By the time the final buzzer sounded, emotions were already boiling over. Then came the moment that pushed everything into another level entirely. Instead of stepping away after the loss and letting emotions cool down, Tiffany Hayes reportedly began engaging online, responding to comments, reacting emotionally, and feeding a situation that was already exploding across social media. In today's sports environment, that's where controversies become uncontrollable. One emotional reaction can instantly turn into headlines, debates, viral clips, and non-stop public scrutiny.
This is nasty, man. Tiffany Hayes pushing for physical violence versus Caitlin Clark off the floor even. This is nasty work.
The comments quickly became impossible to ignore. Phrases like, "I got some cousins," and "ride at dawn," paired with laughing emojis and conversations hinting at off-court harm, pushed the situation far beyond normal sports trash talk. This wasn't two competitors exchanging heated words in the middle of a game. This involved a veteran player with a major public platform interacting with fans who were discussing potential harm toward another athlete. Instead of shutting the conversation down, Tiffany Hayes appeared to validate it with responses like, "That's real. That's fair," followed by laughing emojis. That's the moment many people believe the situation crossed a serious line. What made everything even more alarming was the context surrounding Caitlin Clark herself. Clark has already dealt with documented security concerns throughout her rise to fame. Since her college career, there have been reports of stalking behavior, fans tracking her movements, showing up at locations unexpectedly, and attempting direct contact. The attention surrounding her has been overwhelming at times, and security has become a very real part of her daily life. So when a public figure appears to encourage or validate aggressive online comments aimed at someone already dealing with safety concerns, the conversation immediately changes. It stops being viewed as emotional frustration or competitive banter. People begin seeing it as behavior that could potentially encourage unstable individuals already operating at the edge. That's why the reaction across the basketball world was immediate and intense. Sports media didn't treat this like a routine social media controversy. It became a headline topic across basketball coverage, debate shows, and online sports discussions. Analysts who normally avoid commenting on player drama felt compelled to address it because the issue being discussed was no longer basketball, it was player safety. And the framing from many commentators was consistent. This crossed a line. The outrage wasn't limited to Indiana Fever fans either. Neutral observers, longtime WNBA supporters, and even people who don't closely follow women's basketball weighed in with the same basic reaction. No professional athlete should publicly engage with comments suggesting harm toward another athlete. On social media, the pressure on the league exploded. Hashtags trended. Fans flooded official accounts demanding accountability. Clips and screenshots spread across every major platform within hours. The scale of the response made it impossible for league officials to ignore what was happening. But some of the most important reactions came from voices inside the basketball community itself. Former players and league veterans began speaking publicly about the need for stronger standards around player conduct online. Several pointed to mandatory media and social media training as something the league should seriously consider including in future player agreements. That wasn't being framed as a random hot take. It was being discussed as a structural issue tied directly to the league's rapid growth and increased spotlight. The message from many former players was clear. The WNBA's visibility has grown so quickly that its conduct policies and media preparation may not have fully caught up. Meanwhile, the Golden State Valkyries remained noticeably quiet. There was no major public defense of Hayes, no strong statement backing her actions, and no aggressive pushback against the criticism. That silence became part of the story itself because organizations typically recognize when a situation has become impossible to defend publicly. And according to many observers, that silence spoke volumes. To fully understand why this controversy became so massive, you also have to understand the environment Caitlin Clark has been navigating since entering the WNBA. Her rookie season transformed the league from an attention standpoint. Ratings surged. Arenas filled up. The Fever became must-watch television almost overnight. Clark shattered expectations both on the court and commercially. But alongside all that success came non-stop scrutiny and increasingly physical play. Debates about how opponents defended Clark became a constant talking point throughout the season. Some analysts and former players openly questioned whether certain moments crossed the line from tough competition into excessive targeting. That ongoing tension created the backdrop for everything that followed. And it's a major reason why this latest controversy escalated so quickly across the sports world. Flagrant fouls, cheap shots, late contact after the whistle. Throughout the season, moments like these kept piling up around Caitlin Clark. Players who had never built reputations as overly physical defenders suddenly seemed far more aggressive whenever Clark was on the floor. The debate lasted all season long. Was it coordinated targeting? Or was it simply individual players making emotional decisions in heated moments? Opinions differed, But one thing was difficult to deny. The pattern kept repeating itself.